We had a pretty large bang associated with the caution and warning now.
Okay, as we have an apparent serious oxygen leak.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Houston, we've had a problem. He's in a roll and he can't stop it.
Performing an evasive maneuver.
Okay, Houston, we've had a problem here. I think we need to do a little more all-weather testing.
Welcome to space.
Hello, listener, and welcome to Failure to Launch, the space history podcast where we take you through all the mistakes, failures, and explosions that made modern space exploration possible. We are your hosts, Quinn, he, him.
Chris, he, him.
I am guesting. I am Victoria Scott. My pronouns are she and her. Thank you for having me again.
And I'm a split-second Chris, he, him, and thank you for coming back, despite last episode.
Kind of preempting the guest intro here, guys. And today, we're back with part 2 of our series on the Soviet moon tanks, the Lunokhods. I was able to pull it off.
It's not often you get a guest of this caliber.
Well, thank you. I appreciate being here.
Indirectly insulting every other guest we've had on.
Okay, I'll put myself in the kiln. I'm clearly not done cooking yet.
So yeah, as you have heard, we are joined again by Victoria Scott of Car and Trangerlismo podcast fame, and Space Artifact fame. So yeah, Victoria, thank you for coming back on.
Yeah, last time was fun. It's learning off to an incredible start. I'm looking forward to hearing more about this because it was very zany contraption pilled last time.
Yes.
Learning about the Chud Barncat rover that is ready to bring a cosmonaut over to my Apollo module and run it clean over.
We still need to get bleeped artist name, friend of ours, to make art of the Lunokhod as a monster truck just rolling over 4 Apollo, or I guess 3 Apollo LUVs.
You see, the problem is I already have a clear mental image, and it's of the, Victoria, you'd probably know amongst all of the people here, the weird short track Australian truck racing series with a lot of jumps in it.
Yeah, they've got a couple of those. I was thinking of like Euro truck racing.
Oh,
where they
those are
race
also
the full-on
cool.
semis. That does raise an interesting question. Could you campaign the Lunokhod rover in Dakar? That would be fun.
But could it carry the requisite amount of cocaine that is needed for a Dakar truck to profit during a race?
I do want to see one of these things catching air. It's easier on the moon, admittedly, because of the gravity.
Well, and nowadays with like modern EV swap technology, you just throw some like Model 3 plaid or whatever motors
get
in
the
there.
BYD Lunokhod that does the moon's first 0 to 60 record.
We have to figure out, because China has 2 moon rovers up there right now. Well, one of them died pretty quickly. One of them at time of recording,
BYD.
It's U2 number 2. And it was designed to last a month. Right, I believe, I can't remember exactly what number. Regardless, it has gone 30 times over its design lifespan at this point.
I should not be having that energy drink, but
we need to figure out who made their motors.
Well, we need more torque is what we need if we're going to jump this thing.
I know what we must do. We're going to contact Lucid.
They're desperate. Sir, we will give you a crisp 20 Canadian dollar bill.
Are you kidding? That thing will be accelerated more by just mass transfer from throwing regolith at Mach speed than the actual wheel itself.
This is intriguing to rotate the concept of the Saudi space program in my mind.
What? No, what is...
We're gonna put the line on the moon, y'all.
So there is actually a thing, the UAE. So like in 2023, I don't know if you...
I didn't know about the UAE.
Yeah.
Thank you for introducing me to the Kansa.
Well, they just lost something important today.
It's brand new. They just invented it, the UAE.
But basically, the Dubai space program is legendary for, like Dubai things, which means that they never build anything themselves and they purely outsource everything to other companies.
You've heard of the line, have you heard of the fucking dome?
And like, I honestly can't hate it too much because it means that there's a bunch of companies in like Canada, France, Spain that have suddenly a shit ton of money to do space stuff because they're doing it for the UAE. And I'll go quick on this. In 2023, there was the Lunar Regatta, basically this period where like everybody tried to launch a lunar probe at the same time and like 9 out of 10 of them failed. So like Russia's Luna 25, there was the Japanese private one, there was an American private one, and they all crashed and failed because landing on the moon is actually really, really hard. And on them, they had a, one of them, I believe the Japanese lander, had a UAE-owned rover that was like, the software was Canadian, the frame was Spanish, the solar panels were Chinese, and it's just like this international rainbow coalition that came together to build this rover purely because Dubai didn't want to build it themselves.
Yeah, that tracks with my understanding of like how that entire city has come to exist.
The Canadian software developer, like, what do you mean I have to give over my passport?
while you're in the Toronto office.
Oh.
So yeah, this is another one of those things where like, you know, someone makes a joke about something and then the host jumps in with like, actually that did happen and it was as stupid as the joke would make it sound.
Just rotate that for a second. We'll be right back.
And then that rover failed because the lander smashed into the moon.
It turns, like, this is something that, you know, we briefly touched on last week, but, like, it turns out it's really hard to put things on the moon if you're not just plowing them into the surface and scattering medals of Lenin around.
You also have, like, just from a logistics standpoint, you have to trust 2 groups of people ahead of you. You have to trust the people who built the rocket, and you have to trust the people who built the lander. Because you are, like, third-order payload if you are a rover. So, like, last time we talked about proton rockets and how they explode 10% of the time.
Yeah, achieved mandate of hell.
And then on top of that, you have like, oh, well, if your lunar lander, a bunch of them land well, but they have the problem of an unmanned lunar lander, which is you can just fall over. So they're like otherwise perfectly functional. They have just fallen over on their sides and they don't have like a little kickstand or anything to right themselves. So they died.
They got to get the BattleBots guys in here. This is a solved science.
They're just going to come up with a moonbot that has a saw that's spinning it like, you know, turbocharger speeds, 25,000 RPM. It touches a rock and it just gets hucked back to Earth.
I am putting my line in the regolith right now. Lunar combat will not be like For All Mankind. It will not be like dudes firing AKs and M16s with the handguards with like the cover, whatever protection things removed. It will be a tiny little Lunokhod with a big wedge on the front, like driving into and flipping over an Apollo lander. I'm
telling you, saw at 20,000 RPM, you get back into your shuttle and you just get wrapped around the spindle.
But then you watch those fights, and anytime anyone uses a saw, it immediately hits the other robot and then like recoils and sends their robot spinning. And in low gravity, that's gonna send you miles.
Quinn, that's why you have the fat chud Lunokhod. It's weight anchors in.
Now that we mention it, further thing that I am going to use to segue us back to the topic, we are going to talk about a rover that had a bulldozer on the front of it today.
Wait, legit shit?
Yeah, there was this really controversial case of this guy who really didn't want to pay the sewage fees for his small business on the moon. So
the moon swat made him shoot himself inside of his rover.
They don't tell you that it was actually a crew of 5 in those things. It was like a World War I German tank in the killdozer.
Beautiful.
The killdozer with a crew of 27.
He's running over Apollo 1. No, give me a second. I'm going to be paralyzed by this for a second because there's a very specific GIF playing or video playing in my head. It's the Lego Play City. Someone's being fucked over.
Someone's going on a rampage.
A man is being fucked by his local city council.
We are going to talk about guys who get completely fucked over by the state.
Actually, no. Quinn, you can absolutely send this one.
Chris, please. I have tried to do like 4 sequential segues.
I love you, but I'm too stupid.
You can't send images in Blue Sky DMs.
It's not a solved technology. We don't know how to do it.
we
have our
we
top
only just
scientists on
got
it.
group chats. Why is this thing called Tooth Social? For context, Victoria, this is a picture of the Killdozer, the original, and then below that is like one of those Dutch farmer protesters who has like armored up his cab on his tractor.
The Dutch farmer remix.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Chud carcinization, where they all just everybody with bad politics just starts slapping armor onto a tractor at some point. They all kind of evolve toward the same form.
You have a point, because it's a John Deere in the picture.
Yeah.
I'm now just imagining that applying to the people as well. Like, eventually someone is going to wear a MAGA branded, like, Tachanka helmet, like the Russian riot helmet with the eye
What do you
slit.
mean? We already have Boers fleeing to America as refugees. There we are. We've completed the
All
cycle.
30 of them.
I'm still counting them as the Dutch farmers coming that are going to be the seeds planted for the new Killdozer. I can't complete the sentence.
I mean,
Are you implying that we're going to get American Boer War in like 30 years?
No, I'm implying they're going to get drone striked because it's going to be at that point of surveillance.
no, if you're the IDF, you could also just go to Caterpillar and flip through the catalog and order a Killdozer. They've been doing that for like 10 years.
Well,
That's a factory option now.
JCB too, but it will do highway speeds at the same time.
and we do. I was just about to joke before that of like, I bet an FPV could penetrate the Killdozer, but we do now have real tactical info on the effects of an FPV drone versus a Caterpillar.
Yeah. It's a great time to be a data freak.
Now, fifth attempt at a segue. Speaking of something that would absolutely, like, if we saw footage of a Lunokhod burnt out by the side of the road in eastern Ukraine, I would not be surprised. We're going to talk moon rovers.
Okay, back to Dodge tractors. Nah, I'm sorry, I had to. Just cut that.
I'll keep it. Now, last time we covered the early history of the Soviet lunar rover program, how it fit into the rest of the Soviet moon program, and why it ultimately became the only big PR win against the Apollo lunar landings. We also talked about how the rover actually worked. It's about the size of a small car, and it requires 5 trained tankers to drive it. And also how it nearly died multiple times getting stuck in potholes.
Don't worry, you got 8 wheels. This thing is basically a Striker, but, Soviet.
Oh, God.
Rolling over the Lunokhod because I turned too fast. I guess that's more of a tap VE.
My Lunokhod mobile gun system.
But don't worry, because today we are going to be talking about Lunokhod 2, the rover's bigger, meaner, and substantially more French brother. And also how all of this ties into the Chernobyl disaster and why Luno 2 is currently owned by a man named Lord British. It's a weird one. I keep introducing him as the guy who made the Ultima games, but almost all the Ultima games were made before I was born, so I don't know if that really tracks.
I don't care. I don't like him.
Like with last time, I used the following sources for this script. The books Soviet and Russian Lunar Exploration by Brian Harvey and Challenge to Apollo by Asif Siddiqui. Russian Space Web by space journalist Anatoly Zak, an article by Lunokhod engineer Oleg Sokolov, and the 2007 French documentary Tank on the Moon. For this one, I also used the work of space historian and friend of the show Drew LePage over at his website Drew Ex Machina. As always, all links will be down below in the show notes.
Lunokhod 2.
I also can't get over how on the Lunokhods, the stereoscopic, cameras at the front are just the perfect eyes.
Biblically accurate moon rover.
Yeah. Me getting stared at by the Soviet moon rover.
Imagine you are like an alien that's about 1 foot tall, and that image is like the rover looming over you.
You're just getting gently run over by the Lunokhod.
Yeah, back, forth, back, forth.
A bunch of Soviet tankers are down on Earth just screaming.
I feel like the quality of the driving, like if this had been launched after the Afghanistan war and like those were the tankers who were asked to do this.
Someone's yelling to load HE frag.
One guy is the driver is drinking engine oil. It's the only thing that keeps him calm.
He's getting his sip.
Fuck, now I just want to see the Beast movie, but about Lunokhod.
The Beast movie.
Yeah, well, okay, the movie The Beast.
On why it's basically why the Giselle is the best rifle known to man.
Dune before Dune. I don't know if it was before Dune. I don't think it was before Dune.
The movies,
almost
yes.
definitely wasn't. Oh, okay.
Or at least any movie from the Dune series that I will acknowledge, because the original Ornithopter is an affront to just everything I can love.
Brezhnev rising out of a black, oily goop.
Oh, no.
Now, where we last left off, the Lunokhod 1 rover had just died on the moon after about 11 months roving the surface. It operated in 2-week shifts, driving during the lunar day and going inert during the lunar night. In all, it traveled more than 10 kilometers and only died because its polonium-210 heating source had turned into a lot of lead, which meant that it froze to death. That was in late 1971, and to keep the story going properly, we need a bit of historical context. Our favorite thing. Gotta eat your veggies, listener. Last time, we talked about the head rover guy in the Soviet Union, an ex-tank designer named Alexander Kamurgian. Don't worry, he stays around for another few decades. But we also talked about Lavochkin, or OKB-301, the fighter jet bureau turned space probe OKB that built the lander that safely dropped the rover onto the moon. Like most OKBs of the era, it was named after its founder and original chief designer, Semyon Lavochkin, though he died in 1960. His death threw the entire bureau into chaos. Not because he was so integral to all the work going on there, but because an OKB without an influential chief designer was basically chum in a shark tank. It didn't help that at the time, like just as he died, the Bureau had finished all of the projects that were on its plate, which meant that it didn't have any more work going on to justify it existing. Even if a new leader could be named, Lavochkin's death from a heart attack, remember that for later, took all the OKB's political connections with him. He, I guess, didn't have the phone numbers written down anywhere. In late 1962, the flailing bureau was dissolved and hostile takeovered by show favorite Vladimir Chalamet's OKB-52, which is a very Vladimir Chalamet move. Someone on a different space server I'm on called him a messy bitch, and that stuck with me.
You know what, that's gonna stick with me too now. It's spread.
Because, for context, Victoria, Vladimir Chalamet, he's like persistently the second fiddle to Sergei Korolev. He's the second fiddle of the entire Soviet space program, which means he's kind of the scheming vizier in the background all the time. He's constantly making little moves. He never gets quite as big as the big guys. He also makes the proton rocket, and he's just always trying to do shit. He hires Nikita Khrushchev's son Sergei as a way of like getting some political brownie points. And at one point we will talk about how the same thing happened to Lavrenti Beria, the head of Stalin's secret police. His son also became a rocket scientist.
Oh, God.
Wonder how.
And the thing that sucks is that he was actually good at it.
Oh my God, that's so much worse.
Maybe he got the job through nepotism, but like surface-to-air missile guidance was invented by the son of Lavrenti Beria.
God damn it.
You hate to see a fail son winning.
No, you hate to see the fail son of like the archetypical Soviet ghoul.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, hey, your dad's not allowed to be around anyone's kids, but you know how to use a radar.
Yeah. Although as soon as Beria died, his son did get booted out of the OKB. So he became persona non grata. I love the Soviet Union so fucking much.
It's such a shithole, but at the same time, it's a beautiful one.
Yeah, it's consistently stumbling forward. Now, Lavochkin spent the next 3 years under Chalamet's boot, basically being forcibly converted or strogified from a fighter jet bureau into a space probe manufacturer. I knew some people would get that.
That's a deep cut right there.
That's an image, and I wanted that to like convey how forcibly Lavochkin was turned from like, we make fighter jets to like, no you don't, you make fucking moon probes now.
The trans women have a different analogy for that kind of like forced shift in mode of
fair.
what you're doing.
Queen, don't kid yourself. Nothing in this industry is willing.
Fuck, now I'm just thinking of trans strogification.
Watching a sissy hypno spiral, they're just like, you will build the Lunokhod.
Get into the pod, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Fuck, Lavoshkina? I'm trying to think of the Russian feminine.
A small number of your fan base is going to go absolutely crazy
I don't
for this.
think
The
it's
rest
small.
of them are going to be like, what the hell?
Considering the shows that we are associated with.
Yeah, that's fair.
Now, fortunately, they got a new lease on life in 1964 when Premier Nikita Khrushchev was cooed out of power by Leonid Brezhnev, which is the only way that anything happens in the Soviet Union, it turns out. This was good because OKBs all had powerful political patrons, and OKB 52 had been chummy with Khrushchev, partially because he hired his son. With Nikita gone, Chalamet's bureau was severely weakened, and Sergei Korolev swooped in and, as a way to fuck with his rival, he rescued the Lavoshkin bureau, gave them their independence, and kind of took them under his wing.
Where's the gun to the back of the head in this?
Oh, no, this is more of never come near me or my cute little son again.
Never come near me or my twink again.
And that twink in question was longtime Lavoshkin engineer with a knack for control systems, Georgy Babakin. And while we will be covering Babakin's life in more detail in the future, it is not an exaggeration to say that he deserves a lot of the credit for the Soviet Union's lunar and interplanetary firsts. Under his management, Lavoshkin built the first spacecraft to soft land on the moon, the first probe to explore another planet, Venus in this case, and built the common spacecraft infrastructure that would enable dozens of Moon and Mars missions. He is a relatively unsung hero of space exploration, and I will stand by that. Anyway, in 1971, just a few weeks before Lunokhod 1 went offline forever, Babakin was in the hospital, like everyone else, every other Soviet OKB leader, except he died. Heart attack, it turns out, like his old boss. He was also about the same age as his old boss. This just happens.
I just decided to, on a whim, go to just look up Georgy Babakin. And in the Wikipedia, Semyon Lavoshkin died in air show, and then in air quotes, literally died in Babakin's arms.
Oh no.
A homie might have had
It turns out all these OKBs were right next door to where they were trying to work on the heart attack gun the whole time.
In this case, it was just Semyon Lavoshkin. Ah, yes, I've survived. I've survived the air show, and then
he got the delayed action heart attack gun.
No, he just got shot square in the face.
That's why they were never able to move it to production and use it on American leaders, is because they never knew when it was going to take hold. You got hit with the beam and 30 years later you're keeling over.
shooting a 70-year-old president with the heart attack gun that has a half-life of plus or minus 30 years.
It's just
got him.
It's just a huge as shit dart, but you don't know what's happening.
It's asbestos. It's just a dart gun full of asbestos.
No, it's just got the classical bird feather on the end of it. Fuck is this?
I like the idea of fostering an entire conspiracy community to hand wave the fact that these guys were just old and pieces of shit that didn't take care of themselves. So they were just unhealthy as fuck.
Constantly keeling over.
These guys keep dying of heart attacks. What the fuck is going on?
Why are they pissed off and dying?
The KGB invented a heart attack gun that gives them heart attacks within a variance of 10 to 30 years.
Considering Soviet microelectronics at the time, I'm sure the heart attack gun would have been the size of a truck.
It's got two diesel generators.
You are tied up to a chair, and you hear the menacing sound of a truck beeping as it backs up towards you.
You're giving a speech and 2 kilometers away there's this giant greebled greasy machine that's belching smoke, and then you just see there's some guys in suits and glasses operating it, and they're just they can see that you see them, and they're just out of, just wait a minute, they're gesturing from 2 kilometers away, hey, just hang on, and they're just fumbling with it, and this little pipe out of it just shoots a dart at you from 2 kilometers. It hurts, but I don't know, you feel fine.
What the fuck? Ow, that hurt.
You're baffled by this for the next 35 years.
Exactly, it's an uncertainty gun. You'll never know what it did to you.
No, what happens is you get hit with the Venture Brothers nozzle. and it just stares at you for 20 seconds and then just go.
That would be the best idea, though. Like, if I were the Soviet scientist who were told to make the heart attack gun and I very quickly figure out it's not possible, I would just make the placebo heart attack gun. It would just be a laser pointer. I would tell my bosses it works perfectly, but it has a plus or minus of 30 years. And
I call this the natural causes gun.
it's so perfect. The victim will live to whoever you aim it at, they will probably live to around the average lifespan of their country. It's just that good.
It's called the life accelerator. It shortens their life by 5 years.
I love the name natural causes. It made me think of what if it was just like, what is it like in TF2, like when you get like the weird guns, you can give them a name or whatever.
Don't get me started on that, please.
My unusual, your unusual assassination weapon nicknamed natural causes.
So yeah, Babakin's dead, and he dies pretty much like a month before the Lunokhod does. This doesn't actually have much to do with the story. He just gets replaced by a different guy at Lavochkin who carries on the work. I just wanted to talk about him a bit.
What new show favorite?
Anyway, after the death of Lunokhod 1, plans were drawn up for a second rover. This one would be largely similar to the first, being built on the same frame and with most of the same core systems, just with a fuck-ton more scientific greebling crammed onto it. About twice as many instruments total as the Lunokhod 1.
In automotive terms, this is a mid-cycle refresh.
Yes. It has had its facelift. It's looking good.
Drawing from lessons from the earlier robot, other improvements were made. Quote, "It was 100 kilograms heavier at 840 kilos. It could travel at twice the speed, having two speeds, 1 kilometer an hour and 2 kilometer an hour.
It was either just notch 1 or notch 2. It existed in a binary state. That's what
Sergey,
you're telling me.
Do it."
If there's anybody who ever listens to Well, There's Your Problem in this audience, I can think of the analogy of the Pennsylvania Railroad's Big Liz. An electric locomotive that had two speeds, 10 miles an hour and 20 miles an hour. It did generate enough torque that it just tore boxcars in half.
Hell yeah.
This is not a great solution to railroading, but at 1 kilometer an hour versus 2, you're probably okay.
Yeah.
Do not worry. I have converted the boat into a cabriolet. Everything is good now.
The way you worded that felt open-ended in that there is a 10 and 20 mile an hour speed, which means there is no zero. So it is a perpetually moving device.
It's just doing a very slow burnout at the station.
Lunokhod 2 was designed to handle obstacles of 40 centimeters and holes of 60 centimeters.
Oh, shit.
It had twice the range. Addressing some of the driving problems arising from the first Lunokhod, pictures were now transmitted to its drivers every 3.2 seconds compared to 20 seconds before. The cameras were moved much higher. Lunokhod 2 had 3 low-rate cameras on the front, able to scan 360 degrees vertically and 30 degrees horizontally, with 2 double panoramic cameras able to scan 180 degrees horizontally and 30 degrees vertically.
Wait, are you telling me that top camera could just spin?
It says scan 360 degrees vertically, and I don't really know what that translates to.
So it just spins constantly.
Possibly,
Love
yeah.
it.
I imagine that just means from like straight down to 5 degrees off of straight down on the other side.
No, I want to imagine it just doing rapid spins. I'm sorry.
Among its scientific equipment was also a French-made laser reflector for measuring the rover's distance from the moon. There's a bunch of reflectors that are still on the moon. This is one of them. You can, if you know where the rover is, you can point it at the moon, you can point a laser at the moon and figure out how far away you are.
I'm this far away from my destiny.
Also of note was an astrophotometer, a sensor for measuring the intensity of light from the surface of the moon. The reason this is important is that there has always been this discussion of using the moon as a place to base deep space observatories. So like putting telescopes on the moon, basically, as a way to get better images but not have to deal with zero-G and satellite stuff. Unfortunately, the moon's surface at night is 14 times brighter than a full moon night on Earth, largely because the moon is surrounded, it doesn't really have much of an atmosphere, but it's surrounded by a haze of lunar dust that is really, really reflective, and it picks up the sunlight. Drew LePage's article, which will be linked down below, goes into a lot more detail on this and why it is important, which I would highly recommend reading. Now, Lunokhod 2 was launched on a Proton rocket that did work this time in early 1973, about a year after the end of Lunokhod 1. This was admittedly a very tight turnaround time to design, build, and test a new rover, and the designers at Transmash would have liked to have more time. They did not have more time because of our show's favorite reason: political pressure. Having something nice for the holidays.
Hey, it's back!
56th anniversary of like something Lenin said, and they had to launch it in this 1 day window.
Hold that thought. Hold that fucking thought.
They're just in the Kremlin. They got the big red button that just starts playing the anthem, and just someone
Jesus
is
fucking
just,
Christ, hold these thoughts.
just fist above the head.
We will get there. See, the Apollo program was formally killed on December 19th, 1972, and Lunokhod 2 was pushed to fly as close as possible to that date, basically to thumb their noses at the US, showing that even if they hadn't landed cosmonauts, the Soviets now had the moon completely to themselves. Like, with the end of Apollo, America is formally not touching the moon anymore. And remember, because this was before the N1 rocket was cancelled, many in the Soviet space agencies believed that they would soon land people and they would build permanent bases and they would, take over the moon for the Soviet Union. And as part of that, the Lunokhod rover was proposed as a way of, these rovers would be launched, they would survey base locations. This was all part of the larger goal of landing cosmonauts on the moon. Still, for all the utopian ideas and propaganda, the upshot of this decision was still engineers and scientists having to do their jobs faster and shoddier than they wanted. And it showed. On the flight from low Earth orbit to the moon, faulty telemetry coming from the rover nearly scrapped the entire mission. Then, for seemingly no reason whatsoever, without any orders from the Earth, while it was still in orbit and attached to its lander, the rover began deploying hardware for landing, including opening its solar panel lid, which hit a part of the the lander. So, they're still in space, they're in lunar orbit, and the rover is getting ready to just kind of, drive off the tracks and just kind of float away. Thankfully, they were able to stop this.
It has decided that it is ready?
Yeah, it's my time.
I'm gonna step out, don't worry.
But Luno 2 reached the moon safely, landing on January 15th, 1973, just a month after the end of Apollo. It rolled off the lander into the Le Monnier crater, which is kind of upper right on the visible face of the moon, just off the Sea of Serenity. Slide 25, you can see the Mare Serenitatis, and there's just a tiny little half crater, like a pimple coming off of it on the right.
Oh.
And it fucking drives that whole thing. The tiny crater, not the big one.
Oh.
And in case anyone doubted the propaganda value of this mission, which is why I said hold that thought, the rover was also plastered with the slogan 50 years of the Soviet Union, 1923 to 1973. And it played the national anthem over the radio.
All right, that I gotta give him credit for that one. That's pretty cool. Half the time they make up the dumbest shit for these. So having one that's all right, I'll give you that one. That's pretty cool.
I'm just imagining some guy at the Jodrell Bank Observatory in the UK tuning in, pointing his radio telescope wait, I think I hear something.
They just immediately just bolt straight up, right?
Now, compared to Lunokhod 1, this second rover burned the candle at both ends. With a veteran controller crew on Earth and a much better idea of what they were actually supposed to be doing, Lunokhod 2 made incredibly quick progress. Early on, it drove over 1 kilometer in 6 hours, which in rover terms is like speeding on the highway.
Just out of curiosity from the technical perspective, do they do the polonium thing again?
Yes, this thing has a brick of polonium-210 on it.
Okay, just checking.
You gotta have it on the moon.
I should also mention for that distance that it drove 1 kilometer, 148 meters. But its average speed throughout the rest of its mission was 15 meters per hour. So it drove several times faster than it was supposed to because they just wanted to see how fast they could go with this thing. And again, you're playing with 0.3 frames per second when you're driving this thing.
Is this just the entire crew just looking at each other? I know we're going to be shot, but we have to try it. And then just notch 8, we're in.
Unfortunately, it also burned out much faster than its predecessor. After exploring the entire bottom edge of the crater and traveling about 39 kilometers, disaster struck. The rover drove into a hole, which admittedly it did all the time. And the reason why it drove into this hole is because lunar shadows are weird. They couldn't tell how deep it was, and it turned out to be pretty fucking deep.
Yeah, while they were on a rip, they just said, oh god, oh fuck, and then it fell in.
They managed to get the rover out, but in doing so, it scraped the edge of the crater of the hole, and some lunar dust was dumped onto its solar panel. So imagine like you've got the bathtub, and then like 180 degrees tilted from that is its solar panel. That is now covered in dust. Quote, the immediate consequences were not serious, the loss of some electrical power, but the long-term consequences were fatal. When night came, the lid was closed as normal. In closing the lid, the soil was then dumped onto the radiator. When lunar dawn came in early June and the lid was raised again, the lunar soil acted as an insulator, preventing the rover from properly releasing its heat. The heat inside rose, and Lunokhod 2 quickly died.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so Lunokhod 1 froze to death, Lunokhod 2 cooked alive.
So we're in a kind of Goldilocks situation.
Yeah.
Of one bear killed itself, the other bear died. Can we have a bear that doesn't?
Lunokhod 3 stays the perfect temperature because it is in a museum in Moscow right now.
Perfect.
It is under air conditioning all the time. It does also need to be mentioned that this only became public knowledge like 30 years later, because the Soviets, whenever they announced this, they just said, the rover completed its mission. It's done. It did it. What was its mission? Completed. That's what it was.
It landed.
He's on the moon.
Look, I don't. It's a rover. It roved. I don't know what to tell you.
They went notch 8. What do you want us to say?
Again, the idea that they send it up there and then devise a mission for it afterward, and it's just like the guys responsible for its operation who are basically just joyriding it around a crater. They're like, so what did you guys learn?
Dirtbag.
Guys who are way too busy just having fun and not doing any sort of science whatsoever.
No, just out for a rip.
Despite not lasting as long as its earlier sibling, Luno 2 set a distance record that stood until 2014. It also sent back huge amounts of useful scientific data and tens of thousands of images of the lunar surface. While many on the team were disappointed with how the rover had died and what it might have been able to do if it hadn't, it was still by far the most successful exploratory rover in human history and is arguably, to this day, the most significant moon rover. Though, like I said earlier, it now has competition from the Chinese U-22, which at time of recording has outlived its 3-month design life more than 30 times.
It's just up there chilling.
I think it's coming up on 3,000 days.
Oh,
Wow.
It's been going a while.
just someone gets their safety factor off.
No one ever hits the actual, like, no one actually gets right to the design limit and then keels over.
Yeah, because
Which
the
is kind of
bleeding-
like, if you make it to the average lifespan, you're probably going to go to like 120.
yeah, the bleeding edge is just how quickly can I balance 3 days and 3 years? And usually your superiors will probably be pissed, so you just go, you err on the side of make it a little bit better.
Now, after the end of Lunokhod 2, there were still high hopes in the Soviet space program for more missions. Soviet media had announced the 70s, like, they go out and they announce to the world that the 1970s are the decade of the space robot. And plans had been put in place to have Lunokhods work in tandem with sample recovery probes. They would, like, find and return cool rock cores to the probes, and then the probes would send those home. Even better, the designers at Transmash were working on a heavy Lunokhod that would be twice as large as the old design and contain an entire lab inside of itself.
Wait, 3,800 pounds.
Crossoverification of the Moon Rover project.
The book I sourced from says that they took inspiration from APCs that the rest of the factory was designing. Can we make a T-55 airtight? Awesome.
No, give me a second. How much did the Aztec weigh? I need to know
The
this.
gut impulse is about 3,500 pounds. I think this outweighs it. Those early GM crossovers weren't that heavy.
3,780
Oh, that's
to 4,000.
Okay, so it's off by 200.
But it roughly matches the heavy Lunokhod.
Just born a decade too early, the Lunar Aztec.
And because it was like you could have fit people inside it, the bathtub would have been huge.
No, we're gonna ride on top. That is the Soviet tradition.
Finally, a lunar rover that seats 7.
Unfortunately, like the rest of the Soviet lunar missions, the rovers were shut down quickly and quietly. State media stopped talking about future achievements, like the things that they would do, and they started talking about rovers purely in terms of like past glories, what we did accomplish. And that was the first sign for the people actually working on these rovers. They didn't know that they were circling the drain until the radio started talking, like doing in memoriam stuff for them.
Yeah, just had to check really quick. Stalker came out in 1979, so that correlates really well with like kind of my general conception of like the decline of the empire as people were like, oh shit, this party's over.
Get out. Just get out.
Why is Tarkovsky here? Why is he hanging around our factory? Who let him in?
What's this Swan Lake? What is this haunting melody?
Lunokhod 3 gets up there, it doesn't play the anthem, it plays Swan Lake over the radio.
That's the first indication to the Soviet peoples that it's all over. What's coming back from the moon? Oh god.
It actually would have been able to because Lunokhod 3 never reached the moon, it never left Moscow. It was cancelled before it could fly, and now it's sitting in the museum in the Lavochkin office. And it is fully just like, there's their little museum, and there's a fucking moon rover the size of a small car.
No, I don't like it. It looks like they lobotomized it and put the goggles on.
Yeah, that's actually its nighttime little like eye mask.
Are you saying
that's for the lunar night?
Are you saying they gave the Lunokhod nods?
I also do like, you can see below the big white camera, they have a little gimbal camera too for navigating.
It does look like the one that's on their current tanks line.
The idea that you said that it's at the Lavochkin office.
Yes.
And I interpreted that as Lavochkin's office, as in the
just
rover is just sitting at his desk. Yeah.
Are you kidding? If this was just straight up in the office, I would be having lunch next to this thing all the time. Like, look at that little, like, topia, what's it called, like, fern they have right there.
Oh, yeah.
I'd be sitting right there. I'd have my noodles and just chill.
Yeah.
You'd be making your lunch in the tub of the rover.
That polonium's still probably hot.
I'm willing to bet they still put the polonium in it. No one wondered why, like, Lavochkin office had a massive cancer rate spike.
This looks like something from Aperture Laboratories.
It also has the color palette.
Yeah, exactly. It's got the shitty yellowed curtains and like the tile floor, and then it's this wildly like out of place scientific probe.
The dumpster ass like terrible wooded like a display case next to it.
Yeah.
Like you got that off of IKEA and then put a stain on it thinking you were good. No.
I expect this to be delivered with a monologue about like how they wanted to come up with a more efficient lemon juicer, and the boys figured out how to make it seat 7.
This thing creeping around the office, it mistakes your hand for a lemon. You get sucked into the pod.
It was canceled after the incident, capital T, capital I.
Yeah, that's how Ole died. Now, moving on to the next one, Lunokhod 4.
Now, from 1974 onward, the diktat of newly crowned designer general Valentin Glushko was clear. The moon was over. And we talked about this a little bit recently in our episode with Joe Kasabian on the coup of OKB-1. Korolev's old rival, Valentin Glushko, kind of accomplishes a total coup of the Soviet space program.
I'm still salty.
Yeah.
They have announced the moon is over.
It's gone.
There is no more moon. Do not look up outside at night anymore.
If anyone ever mentions it near Glushko, he just starts freaking like, what the fuck are you talking about?
They milkshake ducked the moon? What did it do?
Everyone just looks up and the moon fully is like painted in American flag colors. Like, oh, fuck. So the cosmonaut program shifted to focus entirely on space stations, while NPO Lavochkin would be allowed to keep working on Mars and Venus probes instead of moon probes. The final part of the Luna program, and this show does not recognize the Russian attempt to steal its name and steal its legacy, was the sample recovery probe Luna 24, which successfully flew in 1976. As far as its legacy, Lunokhod is probably the most significant Soviet achievement of their lunar program, at least in the public consciousness. The two rovers were unmatched by NASA. They were uniquely Soviet, and while multiple Luna probes had returned a few grams of lunar dust, that wasn't as big an accomplishment when the United States started handing out moon rocks as political gifts to 135 nations, including the Soviet Union, which has got to be like the ultimate insult. The Soviets overall, their sample recovery probes bring back about 300 grams total of lunar dust, and America just kind of like gives them a rock. Like, hey, here you go.
Here's
such
a rock,
assholes.
fuck.
We got a guy to pick this one up. It was wild. You should have seen it.
He said, whoa, this is cool.
With both rovers being dead and there never being any plans to remove them, both Lunokhods are still on the moon. Lunokhod 1 is currently the property of Roscosmos, the Russian space program, while Lunokhod 2 we will get to in a little bit. Hello, listener, and welcome to the mid-reel ad. If you enjoy Failure to Launch, more bad space history, and you want to hear more of it more often, there is an option, the FTL Patreon. Signing up at any tier gets you access to monthly bonus episodes and Q&As, and joining an elevated tier gets you even more content, like Chris-narrated minisodes. If that sounds good, you can sign up at www.patreon.com/failure to launch. And now, back to the episode.
Moon rovers in Chernobyl.
Now, the end of the Lunokhod program was surprisingly not the end of rover work at the Transmash tank factory. Even after the cancellation of Lunokhod 3, the team was kept together. They were kept a state secret and given funding, a little bit of funding it has to be said, to keep developing and testing new rovers. A lot of this was because they were expected to eventually graduate to Mars rovers and Venus rovers, which the Soviets had switched their probe focus to after the lunar missions. They were, after all, the first to land a probe on both Venus and Mars, with Venera 4 and Mars 3 respectively. And Mars 3 even had this like really tiny, cute little like Walker rover that the Transmash team built that would have been the first Mars rover ever.
Wait, what was it called? Did it have a name?
If you look up, I'm trying to remember the name. It's like PMAM-M or something. It's got some weird kind of like name like that. If you look up Mars 3, you can find it. Funny story though. Even though Mars 3 landed first on the moon, it died within 15 seconds of landing and never deployed its rover, and it never sent any data home, so people normally give the Americans the credit for first Mars lander, because Viking actually lived.
Oh my god, this thing is the stupidest.
It's
love
so
it.
adorable.
Other Chris and Victoria. If
You're
you've
other
ever
Chris.
Yeah. If you've ever seen the walking, what's called quarry cranes, like the super massive ones, it's like one of those, but tiny.
It's maybe like 6 inches across.
Oh,
when I was a little autistic kid, I had a big book of images taken of just those walking quarry cranes, and it was my favorite thing in the entire world.
Big and mighty machines.
We might have had the same book.
Also, no, I had a coworker back at my previous job that I think immediately just clocked onto how weird I was. And one of the best Christmas gifts I ever got was, hey, here's like an encyclopedia of boats and submarines. And just, I haven't been seen that much since then.
I feel like this is kind of required for podcasting.
It is the top book in my nightstand next to my bed. Wait, Quinn, there's a GIF.
Yes, and I am just getting to that, because if you are not watching this on YouTube, listener, I would recommend checking out the post below this episode post on Blue Sky, because we will have clips there of a tank on the moon showing all of the kinds of prototypes that Alexander Kemerjian and his team built after the end of the Lunokhod program.
It looks like something that like the Roadrunner would use,
and
a wily, like Wile E. Coyote ass, kind of, capture the Roadrunner machine.
Yeah.
It's got the worst vibes, but at the same time, it's beautiful.
You can see those little silver arms; those just go in a circle, so it moves by like swinging those arms over and kind of like hopping along like inch by inch.
It like turtle crawls.
Yeah.
There it is. No, go to new slide 29.
Look at him go.
That's incredible.
It's me escaping my problems.
This is. Are you familiar with the meme that's like, just walk out?
Yeah.
Just leave, just hit the
leave. Mars if you're quick.
My favorite part is that this rover is not independent.
It has the child dog leash on it.
So it could only, and that was in the real rover. If it had landed successfully, it would only have gone so far from the lander before it just stopped.
And just watch it pulls the rover over.
I also don't really, I could look this up, but I didn't because I'm a hack and a fraud. I'm trying to figure out, like, how much scientific equipment could you really fit in that thing?
It really redefines the term iPad baby because it's roughly the same size.
This is, like, you mentioned it crawling like a turtle, Chris, and now I'm just imagining that, you know, like baby turtles having to make the trek to the sea and, like, a very large chunk of them don't survive. I'm picturing that, except it's hundreds of these tiny little Mars rovers.
With the most pitifully attached, like, cable on the back that looks like it's about to, like, desiccate itself apart.
Oh, it's even called an umbilical. That's even more perfect.
Me and my perfect child escaping the Soviet shithole. Brackets were in the worst one now.
I have landed, me, Lander, M29, have landed inside of a small pothole. I need to fling my child to safety so it can call help. So, like, these things are, without exaggeration, generations ahead of rovers that NASA would build over a decade later. Consider that the first NASA rover ever launched is Sojourner, which is more comparable to that tiny little Soviet lander rover. Between the Lunokhods and the prototyping years, Alexander Kemerjian kept pushing the bounds of rover design on a shoestring budget, and despite none of them ever flying. We are talking rovers, walkers, hoppers. There's one in that video that shows, like, it has wheels, but it has this weird kind of crawling, walking kind of gait to it.
Hey, I'd rather have that instead of, the bouncing Mercedes nonsense we have nowadays.
But again, none of these rovers would ever be used in any Soviet space mission. Their rover know-how would only be applied one more time in the Soviet Union. In 1986, one of the 4 reactors at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant north of Kyiv exploded. I'm not going to go too in-depth on this since I am not an expert, but one of the main problems with cleaning the site was that the explosion had blasted radioactive debris from the reactor onto the roofs of the building. Debris that needed to be cleared. Early on, someone at the Kremlin remembered the work of the rover team and summoned Alexander Kemerjian. He and his team were ordered to construct a radiation-proof rover that would act mostly like a RC bulldozer, clearing the roofs without risking human lives. Notably, in the recent Chernobyl miniseries a few years ago, they showed the rover failing completely and them just having to go with, like, a Western robot that also failed and then just having to use people anyway. This is not what happened. In 1 month, in one single month, the team had built the metal chassis of the rover they called the STR-1, Special Transport Robot 1. Compared to the Lunokhods, it was simple, light, and absurdly rugged. It had to be simple to have it ready in time. It needed to be light to make sure it didn't fall through the reactor's thin roof, and it needed to be tough to ensure that it could survive being in pretty much the most radioactive spot on the planet. They milled the wheels out of solid titanium blocks, not the mixed alloy of the Lunokhods, pure fucking titanium. They hooked it up with a couple of cameras, and they mounted a dozer blade on the front. They used the rest of their allowed time testing the rover. And I want to be clear on this, like, they were testing the rover. They weren't holding up any of the stuff at Chernobyl, like no one was waiting for them, because they knew that the roof cleanup would have to happen like a couple of steps down the line. So they had a bit of, like, breathing room there. They turned their old moon yard into a simulated roof, scattered with replicas of reactor graphite and other debris. Like, they took pictures from above of the debris on the roof, they recreated it perfectly, and then they shoved it around with their RC dozer. And they also trained themselves on how to operate this new rover. Themselves because they did not have time to train any of the cleanup crews at Chernobyl. One of the engineers, Mikhail Malenkov, quoted Kemerjian as telling him, "Friends, we are the only ones who know the STR-1. To pilot it, we'll have to go ourselves."
Oh.
Yes. King shit.
No, that's also, we have to go right into the
Yeah, that's something we're going to get to. They are not just, like, this thing is remote controlled, but because of the radiation, they have to be very, very close by to it. They are not working from, like, a hotel 2 cities over. They are there. They worked in 1-month rotations. Malenkov was leader of the second rover crew and spent 30 days working on the contaminated roofs. He was on the roofs with the rover.
Wait, for how long?
30 days. Because of the extreme radiation level and the shielding on the rover, it had to be operated from very close by. The controllers were just on the other side of the wall from where it was operating. Even from close up, the STR-1 still suffered from bad controls because of the radiation interference.
That is...
Yeah.
Oh.
Like a lot of stuff, Chernobyl, there aren't concrete agreed upon numbers of what happened to the rover designers who volunteered to go. None of them directly died during their work or are considered to be part of the around 50 directly killed by the disaster. But at the same time, the knock-on health effects of the disaster and deaths caused by it are widely agreed to be in the tens of thousands. However, any of those who went were there for at least a month, working in the most contaminated parts of the zone. They went onto the roofs to maintain the STR-1 or to hook it up to a helicopter winch when it was time to move from one roof to another. They were there. They were exposed, and it's almost certain that many paid the price for that.
As in, they were expected to go out, hook it up to the
helicopter.
winch.
Yes. That's dust. That's, because it's a rover, it was on one roof. Once it cleared a roof, it had to be flown over to another roof. Someone had to go out there and physically hook it. It's like, it sucks. They all volunteered, and the fact that the rover was able to work still definitely saved lives.
Yeah.
I can't believe that the Chernobyl television show live.
Dang.
That's crazy.
Live from Pripyat, the two homies.
Are you telling me that communist people who lived in the Soviet Union were still human beings who cared about other people? That's crazy.
That sounds like propaganda.
So, yeah, we don't really know what happened to these guys, but it is basically inconceivable that spending 1 month, basically like in the show, I don't want to give it credit, but they show like there's the kind of closed off area immediately next to the roof where the people are all getting ready to do their run. That's basically where these rover guys are set up. They are immediately next to the roof. They are within they can walk outside and look at the rover. It is inconceivable that they did not suffer consequences from that. Alexander Kemerjian spent weeks in a Moscow hospital with acute radiation burns. Not just radiation poisoning, he had lesions on his skin from the radiation.
Fuck me. That's...
Yeah. And I am not doing this to flag these guys as being braver or better than any other liquidators involved in the Chernobyl cleanup. I'm talking about it because they are space guys and because they were privileged. They were valuable engineers from the prestigious space program. They did not need to go.
It's also worth noted that in and of itself, they got it to a Moscow hospital.
Yes, yeah, and that's one of those things where the privilege does count. The conscripts going on the roof were not being flown to the best hospital in Moscow. That's something that Alexander Kemerjian did have that luxury. These guys did still have some degree of luxury to them. But at the same time, they did not have to go in the first place. And the Kremlin did not want them to go in the first place. They all volunteered because they knew that they were the best people to drive this rover. And that if they had tried to train some conscript on 1 week of training time, he may have just driven it off the roof or something. And at the same time, it does need to be said that the show is somewhat correct in that the rover couldn't work on every single roof, but it did work on multiple of them. So some of them, they did still have to use people with shovels, but at the same time, this rover was used, it did clear roofs, and it did save lives. They, the designers, like many others involved in the cleanup, did not receive recognition for their work. The STR-1 is still in the exclusion zone in Ukraine, parked in a concrete pad with other contaminated vehicles. Whether by the team or through theft, it is missing one of its titanium wheels.
That'd be the craziest return on investment for leaving a car up on blocks of all time. You gotta admit.
Then again, those wheels have also never been cleaned and have been driving through pure radioactive dust.
Yeah, I'm gonna contaminate every neighborhood I go through.
Now, Alexander Kemerjian received very little recognition for his work during the Soviet years. He did get an Order of Lenin in 1973, but remember that he, the person, was a state secret. So he was not allowed to talk about it. He wasn't allowed to talk to his family about what he did. He was, however, allowed to publish articles and papers, but only one of 3 different pen names: Alexandrov, Leonovich, and Yuglov. These 3 scientists gained a reputation in Western space magazines as constantly proposing new ideas for robotic exploration. You know, like, here's the way that we can cooperate and, like, make this wild idea happen. So, when the Iron Curtain fell, a lot of academics were surprised to find out that all of them were the exact same guy, and that guy was a tank designer and the guy who had invented the Lunokhod rovers.
Admittedly, that's just stacking achievements right there.
Yeah, dude's running with his alt accounts, racking up all of the publications.
Yeah, except these aren't voluntary alt accounts. These are alt accounts where if you post on main, there's going to be 5 people outside your apartment with just truncheons.
Hey, if you post good enough on your main now, you can still get that. Just post harder.
Yeah, I choose to believe that, like, he fully wrote out backstories for every one of these different scientists. Like, ooh, like Yuglov is like 23. He's just out of school. He's trying to find his way in the industry. Alexandrov's this, like, old embittered alcoholic.
The one time posting on main really gets you killed is this guy.
Leonovich hates his wife. So, in the early 90s, both NASA and the ESA were gearing up for missions to Mars, and they were excited to discover that the Soviets had been designing and testing prototypes for years. These space cooperations and knowledge exchanges were happening all over the place when the Soviet Union broke up, for all kinds of reasons, and I want to cover the good and the bad here. The West wanted to tap and exploit this new resource of space expertise, obviously. NASA wanted to keep the Russian space agency together and afloat so it didn't collapse, because that's bad. And on a security level, it's kind of bad if a rocket scientist is unemployed. You do not want a bunch of people who know how to make nuclear missiles to suddenly be out of work. It's bad for global security.
Yeah, just kicking rocks in my backyard and then suddenly someone from,
Russia, the nation that shares a border with North Korea. Long story short, like, these are some of the political reasons why they wanted to continue this cooperation. Similar things with, like, old Soviet, like supporting old Soviet biolabs or things like that, of, like, you do not want these things to go out of business. At the same time, though, whenever you're talking to the scientists involved, they just wanted to cooperate. They just wanted to finally, like, this censorship, this block, this rivalry between them was gone. And on the Soviet side specifically, the Russian scientists, the Ukrainian, all of these ex-Soviet scientists in these different OKBs, their main thing is that they say this repeatedly in interviews. They want to preserve their knowledge. They know that the RKA, the Russian space agency before it became a Roscosmos, in this period, it is canceling programs left, right, and center. So a lot of them view it, if they can share this knowledge, if they can send it to NASA, if they can send it to the Europeans, it will mean that it won't have been for nothing. And this is, on the rover side, especially prescient because there is an attempt to launch a Russian Mars rover. However, it gets canceled. It is originally going to be part of Mars 98, but that gets canceled, and the Mars 96 mission explodes because its Proton rocket fails, which is about the most poetic way that could end.
Sensing a theme here.
Yeah, Chalamet's ghost will not let Soviet or Russian things reach Mars.
Actively fighting them from the spiritual plane.
Well, I mean, it's not helped by them using a proton rocket,
But the proton rocket is the only thing powerful enough. Like, the whole reason they're using a proton rocket is because it's 3 times as powerful as a Soyuz rocket. There's no other option. They just have to they have to roll the D10.
They don't have to. They could design a new one, but then again, every time they probably go to design a new one, there is, I would dare say, a conflagration in the office that tries.
I gotta imagine, by like the mid-90s, you're basically trying to swat away capitalists with a stick from stealing everything that isn't bolted down.
Hold that thought.
So you're kind of like, your hands are kind of tight. Your hands are kind of full at all times.
I love mentioning not even stealing things that are bolted down, like they're not also stealing the things that are bolted down.
Yeah.
They can be unbolted. They can be stolen.
We have this thing. It's called a spanner. On On the rover side, NASA wanted to test what was called a Marsocod prototype, a Mars rover that Kemergian had built. So they flew them all the way out to the Mojave Desert. I have a couple of pictures here. This design is super cool. I love the Marsocod design. It has these massive drum-shaped wheels, and it's 3 different articulated sections like an insect.
Yeah.
If you see it driving, all of those segments are separated, and they're kind of like waving around. What you are seeing there in that picture, that is a Soviet rover, an American NASA-provided service module on the back, and that blue robot arm on the front is McDonnell Douglas. So this is like fully hybrid. I'm going to say the rover is Soviet because it was made prior to the fall of the Soviet Union.
Shit was going to be so cool for just like a second there.
Yeah. The documentary has these great shots of the Russian team working with JPL in the desert. I also have a picture there. Alexander is this tiny old dude in a pink button-up shirt and a straw hat just wandering in the middle of the desert. And I love him. I love Alexander Kemergian. He keeps doing this pretty much until he dies. He retires like 3 years before he dies. He's just like, he's the rover king. So this infusion of ex-Soviet rover knowledge into NASA greatly helped them with their own Mars projects, starting with Sojourner, which touched down on Mars in 1997. It also marked, again, I want to be clear about this, only the 3rd rover mission in history. You've got Lunokhod 1 in 1971, you have Lunokhod 2 in 1973, and then you have a 24-year gap before NASA launches a rover.
God.
I like to highlight that just because nowadays it seems like every year or so there's a new rover launching to the moon or Mars, and that's great. I love them as exploratory platforms. But the fact that the rover effectively died for a quarter of a century and was only kept alive by these weird dudes working in a tank factory is an incredible bit of space history knowledge that I did not know before I was researching this story.
And all the infrastructure, I would dare say, is also incredibly interesting.
Oh,
creating the regolith simulator.
Hiring the 5 guys.
Yeah, the 5 guys are just there to, I don't know, just exist on it.
The auction.
Now, at the start of this, I promised that I would talk about the ownership of one of these Lunokhod rovers. You mentioned stuff being sold off by the capitalists, anything that wasn't bolted down.
Yes.
It turns out that in 1993, the newly capitalist Lavochkin company decided to start selling off all of its space assets for some keeping the lights on cash. Because the rovers had technically been built under a contract from Lavochkin, like Transmash built them, but they delivered them to Lavochkin. They were Lavochkin property. They put up the Lunokhod 2 and Luna 21 lander for auction at Sotheby's in New York City, where they were promptly snatched up by Richard Garriott, who is definitely a kind of weird figure in both space and video games. On the space side, he is actually the son of Skylab astronaut Owen Garriott. He is a private astronaut himself. He is a famous collector of Soviet space artifacts, and he got married. He had the first zero-G marriage because he rented out a Vomit Comet in 2009, which kind of rules unless you puke on the bride.
Did he?
I think he had the experience. I don't know about her. Like, he would have already been to space by that point. On the video game side, he's the main guy behind the Ultima game series and insists that everyone call him Lord British. I'm not very familiar with his work because the vast majority of it was made before I was born. But I do know that his most recent video game work was in 2021 when he was trying to make an NFT-based MMO. Yay, I remember that period when everything had to have NFTs crammed into it. Quoting from a New York Times article, Mr. Garriott bought them with his winning bid. All he received initially was a $68,500 credit card receipt. With some prodding, he subsequently obtained a certificate of title to Lunokhod 2. Mr. Garriott, whose father Owen was an astronaut on NASA's Skylab, made his fortune as a video game developer and subsequently indulged his space hobby. His collection also includes what could be a spare of the original Sputnik satellite, and he paid $30 million for a visit in 2008 to the International Space Station aboard a Russian Soyuz spacecraft. So I do love that they took the money and only after like pestering, they're just kind of like, yeah, fuck it, here's a piece of paper, dipshit.
I also love the idea that they specifically referred to it as a title.
Yeah.
Like you can go down to the DMV and get plates for it.
I wonder what the import charges on a Soviet moon rover would be.
It depends on whether the Strait's open this week or not.
Fair. This is going to be fun because it happened between the recording of part 1 and part 2. Well, I guess it's not open yet, but
Your Honor, he's lied for the 40th time.
We'll know it's true because if we look for transponders being active and traversing through the
straight
the Gulf, we'll know.
I think the funniest thing is going to be if Kegseth gets fired.
He should be more than just fired.
Well, he killed a bunch of kids.
I mean, fired is just. I'm trying to use the legal sense. I'm not trying to say what I think should actually happen.
The death toll in the Caribbean is like 200 people.
Yeah, like unquestionably complete war criminals.
Not to be like like too much like, ooh, I hate the West, but I need to. I mean,
No, I'm Canadian. I'm blameless. So.
Oh my God! I have seen the worst thing.
Drawing the border in my mind as soon as America does a worse thing, I'm just like, man, that fucking Americans. Am I right, guys?
The problem is that I've read too much about other Anglophone countries to be like, oh yeah, just go up there and it'd be great.
I'm sure only good things about Canada.
Throwing away our entire arsenal of Tomahawk missiles because it would be fucking epic fury.
Bacon.
Epic bacon. We gotta show the bad guys that we make big explosions so they'll cower in fear. That always works. So when we throw our hundreds of millions of dollars of Tomahawk stockpile away to do yet another in this decade shock and awe tactic on someone that doesn't work, and we are left with our pants down holding the bag,
professional bag fumblers.
So there is not really as much to talk about with this collectible. That's kind of it. Lavoshkin put it up for sale, and a video game developer, son of an astronaut who insists on everyone calling him Lord British and who is making an NFT game, bought it for about 160,000 inflation-adjusted US dollars. It is still up there, and Richard Garriott can look at it through pictures from NASA's Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter anytime he wants.
Cool, I'm going to tiptoe up to it in my Jordans and disassemble it.
Taking the wheel like the one off the STR-1.
Yes!
Yeah, we need a replacement wheel, so...
I mean, I know that, I collect space artifacts, you collect space artifacts, Victoria. Someone has to be collecting Chernobyl artifacts, and that has to be the most unhealthy person on the planet. Look, everyone, I've got the STR-1 wheel.
Victoria has the best artifact we have seen to date on the show. But when it comes to Chernobyl artifacts, there's going to be one dude that's going to, be just keeling over at his desk, gonna have a friend over. Hey, want to see this gas mask I have? The box opens and they just, get flashed over to, a scene of Stalker with the Wishmaker. And you just get indoctrinated that way.
The fucking, wait, the Buran replica fucking Wishmaker, is that what the bit is?
No, those are separate things. But fine, you have the tiny little 5-inch tall Buran in a box.
I'm just trying to think of equivalents, and it's just some guy buddy, you're not going to believe this. I have Reactor 3 at home, the whole thing. They just sold it to me.
Yeah, you just go into his basement and exit as Monolith.
It's just the one next door, but still.
Light novel, My Roommate is the Elephant's Foot.
No, cut his mic.
I can't believe it.
That's a Chuck Tingle book right there. But yeah, everybody, that is the story. That is the final part of our 2-part series on the Lunokhod rovers. That is how rovers were invented. That was their place in the Soviet space program, and how they saved lives in Chernobyl, and how basically everything that everybody else knows about rovers was taken from this one Armenian dude. How are we all feeling?
This is great. I learned a lot. I didn't really know any of this beforehand going in, so I feel like I've learned a lot, and I already had a pretty deep appreciation for Soviet space projects. So this is really cool for me.
To follow up on that, I try to just not look into space at all because I try to remain ignorant of this. Because if I just catch a hint of what we're recording, It's going to be, okay, cool. I'm going to be on my lunch break or work. I'm going to have 20 tabs open on my phone of just this. I'm informed now. No, I like to go into this blind because I actually learned quite a bit.
I'm still reflecting on the nature of mortality, thinking about being someone willingly going into a highly irradiated area, knowing that 10 to 15 to 35 years down the line that I'm going to have cancer because of it.
It's one of those ones, I think I told you guys, I think I tell you guys anytime it comes up, like whenever I got to that part, was reading, there was a decent part of a dude's book about that. There was the documentary, like, I have no shame in saying when I am crying, when I am writing these scripts, and that's part of it, of these dudes, like, recounting the fact that they are voluntarily, like, they're rocket scientists. They are not conscripts. They have the choice to not go, and they choose to. And again, we don't know exactly what happened to them. We do not have strict numbers. But the fact that Alexander Kamergian, he does not get radiation poisoning. He gets radiation burns. Like, his skin gets fucked up.
And not to bring things all back to like the Buran I've got, right? Because like I don't have that many like space artifacts. No, seriously though, hear me out, right? Part of, like, I don't really have that many space artifacts. Part of what made the Buran so specifically interesting to me was like, one, obviously it's huge and weird, but I think part of it is that the Buran to me is, you know, I mentioned this briefly in the first part of the episode, but it is a really, really triumphant feat of engineering that was failed by the society around it kind of collapsing before they could even do anything useful with it. You know, the shuttle and the Buran kind of both developed from the design brief of what if we have to steal the other country's satellite out of orbit in a single rotation. And so they both have these weird designs. Of those two, the Buran is much like better and higher payload. It could fly, you know, it could fly, you know,
energy. It could fly alone if it needed to. Yeah.
And we never got a chance to see it in action. And so you have all of the efforts of all of these engineers that was just kind of like wasted. And that's like, you know, that is like a really depressing thing. And I think like the stuff like this with, you know, building this rover and risking your life, probably shortening your lifespan, maybe dying to try to help people because you have the skills to do so is like, it is like another illustration of like a society that had good people in it that were willing to help others that just failed those people. And it's like, that's, I think, like, as somebody who is, like, very well aware of, like, the Soviet Union's many flaws, that's, like, the thing that kind of keeps me romantically interested in the history of it, is because, like, there is, and it's the same thing with America now, right? Like, we're doing this again. Like, we're doing this too. Every collapsing empire kind of goes through this kind of thing, I think, where you have motivated people who want to use their lives to make other people's lives better, or you know, forward humanity in some way, and like a lot of them end up in space programs, and every time that you end up tossing one of these designs, it's like that's that person's life's work to try to make the world better that just didn't come to fruition. And like that was kind of what drew me to getting the Buran, and that's part of why I stay so interested in like Soviet space stuff, especially from like this late era. There's kind of like a both like it's so modern, it represents these different attitudes. Like I do love looking at the Soviet and American stuff, or Soviet and Western stuff, like where they very clearly separate. You know, like a lot of designs you can see, oh, this is the Soviet take on a fighter jet, this is the American take on a fighter jet, but like the Americans never made a chronoplans. That was something exclusively Soviet.
You're trying to activate me with that one, aren't you, bud?
And until 1996, rovers were exclusively, I mean, like unmanned exploratory rovers were exclusively a Soviet thing. They were not replicated by America.
Yeah.
And it is kind of one of those things where you look at the kind of exploitation of the post-Soviet states after the fall of the Soviet Union, and where I'm kind of like, you know, like the good and the bad of this is exploitation. This is kind of picking over the carcass of the loser. At the same time, though, like you talked about, I can't say if I was a Soviet scientist who had worked on this stuff and then the Soviet Union collapsed, I cannot say that I would not be happy to give it to NASA just so that it would get used, you know, just so that like it would make a difference for humanity.
Yeah. I mean, when I worked at NASA, like that was kind of why I wanted to be there, was because I was like, well, you know, I disagree with a lot of things that the country I live in does, but at the time I was like, and this is probably naivety, but I was like, I still think that this is like overall a good thing for humanity, and it shouldn't in an ideal world matter who's forwarding the cause of space exploration, right? Like it should theoretically benefit all of us equally. It obviously does not. But like that was, it still seemed like a net good thing to me, which is part of why it's so disheartening lately that like I've become really disillusioned with a lot of
and like
stuff that we're doing because I used to love it.
And like Artemis 2, I think was a brief kind of like, for me, it was a reminder that we can get back to that people can like, I remember seeing people saying that like, oh, I thought I was done with space, but it turns out I was just done with like space billionaires or trillionaires.
It was a hope spot.
Exactly, yeah, and proof that we can get back to that. It's not gone forever. And
then I saw the Artemis 3 announcement where they like didn't pick any women for the team, and I was like, oh yeah,
but
I
we're
remember
right
this
back
place
to the
sucked.
shit show. God damn it.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, like this is not a new observation. I mean, like Whitey on the moon.
I mean, especially current administration.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just like it's just like I think also like the ideology of the Soviet state and its complete failures to live up to that, and the rare moments where it kind of almost got close to it, just it makes it all compelling to me. I don't know. That's just my thought. I just wanted to end with that.
Whenever I'm researching these things, there are so many things that like I go into a story thinking that it's going to be about this, and it turns out I have to go and talk about all these other things. Like these guys were at Chernobyl. I did not know that the Lunokhods were made by tank designers. Or that, for me, one of the really big things is something we talked about there, that Lunokhod 1, Lunokhod 2, and then there is a nearly 25-year gap before another rover flies. And nowadays, rovers are treated like this, and they have become a major part of space exploration. If you want to explore the surface of another planet or celestial body,
a rover is the default.
Yes, it's a good way to do that. And for the longest time, they were basically like the space chronoplan. They were something that the Soviets did. They made like one or two of them, and then they just gave up.
You're doing it again, you asshole.
Yeah.
And like this design was just sitting there, and during that brief period of space cooperation, it was allowed to flourish. It was allowed to move to a place where there was more funding for it to actually happen, and it did. I don't know. And I just think this is like a cool story to kind of go with that, of like this technology being developed and jumping from country to country until what now, like 60 years later, it finally has a place as a mainstay of space exploration.
Yeah.
But yeah, listener, that has been our 2-part series on the Lunokhod program, the tanks on the moon. For Victoria, again, thank you so much for coming on. Is there any place that people can find your stuff?
Thank you so much for having me. It was really fun. And yes, I am on vantimevictoria.com. I am victoriascott.bsky.social on Blue Sky. And I have a podcast called Trangirlismo, where we discuss car culture, the decline of empire, and motorsports in that order. I'm also occasionally on Well, There's Your Problem.
Yeah.
Frequently lately, but
I don't know if plugging it here, but like there's now a new train podcast hitting the Bethea-verse as well. It's
yeah.
There's lots happening. Listener, there is a vacuum for a rover-based Bethea-verse podcast. Hit me up. There needs to be a podcast for every form of locomotion. So yeah, listener, thank you so much for listening. And until next time, goodbye.
Goodbye.
Adios.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you to everyone who have signed up to support the show, and a big shout out to all of our top tier patrons. Our cyborg cats are Alex K, Asha Rin, Boss, Kataiga Reptile, Charlie, Comrade Sleepy Bro, Daniel F, Graham E, Jesslyn T, Jorg 2, Building My Rockets in Achtetatis Hrabahase Hereds Habhurdias, Joss, Kamo, Lane of the Wired, Matt, Mobius Striptease, Murray Motorsports, Mysterious Stranger, Oil Drum, Pat, Paul C, Rare Scrungles Fingus 3rd Edition, Skylab Bricks, Source Force, Spectre Cohen, The Mass of Grey Goo, formerly known as Wingsmith, Tortilla Baron, Vivek D, and What's the Character Limit for a Patreon name anyway? Our space dogs are a Union Thug, A. Blinkham, Agent Carter, Alex S., Alexander the OK, Alice N., Alan N., An American Robin, Angie, Angry Old Man Yada Yada, Anthony C., Argent Blue, Arlen S., Atomic Hobbit, Autofox, Avocado Assassin, Baron M, Batday, Ben L, By Barbarian, Big May, Binary Badger, Labilius Blix, Beanie, Bod Vogue, Boomzilla, Boring Brian, Booge, C, Cantaloupe Was Taken, Celebgill, Chainsaw Snuggling, Charles H, Charlotte M, Chris K, Christian K, Play M, Cole C, Captain Lag, Cynical Scribble, Daddy Bongo, Darth Baby, David L, DeSmiley, Dom K, Drain Bandage, Dr. Shockmaster, Duke of New York, Ank, Aaron, Eric J, FBH, Flatbread Shrimp, Fractal Moonlight, Furious Luddite, Garrett B, George B, Grant K, Griffin, former snow shoveler of Burger King, Heiko S, Howl's Moving Pictures by Rush, Human Post-Fuel Soup. I heard Stephen Miller is a pedophile. Isn't that crazy? I hope you have a good day. Ian R, Iggy Noranis, JMM, James A, James C, James T, Jamie K, Jarl Breadmaker, Jerry M, Jedediah D, Joan of Bark, John C, John E, John Boy D, Johnny Terrors, Jonathan G, Jonathan W, Just Morse, Kate B, Kate D, Corbin the Dog, Cruzzy, Lens Wipe, Liliana, Lorgath, Luke O, Alexins PC, Majestic Affect, Man Who Is Average, Mar, Marigold Muskrat, Marto, Maxwell B, Mech Girl Alley, Michael, Michelin Star Blemtro, Mish, Mr. Dr. John, Mitch P, Newman Instrumentality Project, Nellie W, New Name, Nicholas S, Nick S, Nolan B, Norman W, Northeast Driver, NSFW NSA, Outlook Cov, Panda, Pat S, PB, Poopbutt, Randall, Ray H, RBK, Rayto B, Riley, Robert G, Sailor of Fortune, Scott K, Sean F, Sean H, Sensual Kazoo, Sean P, Shetty Hanks, Silly Vixen, Skyhawk, Something, Spirit of Thunder, Starborn in the Sky, Starlight Foxalope, Strone Ahone wants to say thanks to Chris, Swanee, The Best Sean, Thomas M, Tim P, Toasty Ken, Trashed, Verash T, Brisk, William O, William P, Winston P, Wouter S, Zachary JB, Zap, Zemo, Zim, and Zombie Dwarf. Albert Count, 231. Thank you for listening to another episode of Failure to Launch. If you want to follow us, we are Failure to Launch on Blue Sky and FT Launch Pod on Instagram. We also post our episodes with visual aids at Failure to Launch Podcast on YouTube. FTL intro and outro themes were provided by DJ Danarchy.